I started my journey of how am I going to work on this? And it came down to discipline. When you do things in a disciplined way, as much as people think discipline restricts you, it actually gives you freedom. So I said, I'm going to put some discipline back into my life. And so I started reading daily. I hadn't read in years. I took alcohol out of my diet. I started working out every single day, regardless of how I felt, whether or not I wanted to or not. I still did it. If I woke up one day and I was sore and I was like, I really don't want to go on a run today, I committed to doing it. I'm fucking doing it. I didn't do my reading early on, and now it's nighttime. It's 10 o'clock and I'm just now getting done with work. I'm tired. I'll read more tomorrow. Fuck no, I'm not reading tomorrow. I'm reading today because I said I was going to read today. And those were like putting small daily deposits into my discipline, which was growing and growing and growing. And then when I was growing my discipline over time, that voice in your head that tells you, sleep in, hit the snooze. You can take a day off. You deserve that cheat meal. You can do it tomorrow. That voice got lower and lower and lower and lower. It's like a whisper. And the voice is like, you're a fucking badass, Greg. When you say you're going to do something, you're going to fucking do it. Don't listen to that bitch ass voice. That one got louder.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover podcast, the show where military mindset meets the spirit of the puppy. I'm your host, Jason Skisick, the entrepreneurial evangelist, and each week I bring you the stories of visionaries who see the world as it could be and can't help but take action. Don't forget that this conversation continues in our free Facebook group, Dynasty Builders, where you'll have access to free courses, live trainings, and question and answer sessions with myself, as well as money-making tactics you can plug and play in your business right away. The link to that group is in the show notes below, so be sure to head on over and check that out. Believe it or not, I don't really think of myself as a fitness guy. I'm more of a tribe guy. I'm a hard work guy. I believe in investing myself. I believe in working towards improvement in any form that I can find it. Fitness, like entrepreneurship, just so happens to be a perfect match for these behaviors. Our bodies are the most fundamental place we can invest to see a real, meaningful improvement in our overall quality of life. Today's guest is no stranger to investing both in your body and financially. Like myself and so many others, he's seen what life is like when you don't invest in yourself physically, mentally, and financially, and he has made it his life's mission to make sure that you don't have to learn the hard way like he did. He's the owner of Delta Financial and Delta Fit. He's a veteran. He's a badass ball of positive energy. Please welcome my friend, Greg Birch. Greg, how are you, brother?
Jason, I'm doing well, brother. Appreciate you having me on the show. This is fantastic.
Dude, this has been a whirlwind, man. I feel like we recorded maybe a week or two ago. We fell in bro love, and here we are in another episode on my podcast so quickly. Why? I don't know what it is that we hit it off so quickly. Maybe it's the veteran thing, maybe it's the fitness thing, maybe it's just the energy thing. But
I think it's energy, bro.
I think so too, man. I think so too. So real quick, in as few words as possible, who are you and what do you do for folks?
Yeah, so I'm a prior veteran, prior Army officer, turned entrepreneur, turned coach, and ultimately, with my experiences in life and everything that I went through in the military, and then also through my entrepreneurial journey, I found a passion with just helping serve people and helping them elevate to reach their undeniable potential, which is, I believe everyone's potential is unknown and unlimited, but really chase their potential to reach their greatness.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. I think I so often see the crossover between fitness coach and then personal coach, and in your case, financial coach, or however you would describe that. What does it take to help? What does it take to help people transform these very fundamental aspects of themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the ultimate thing is belief, is faith in oneself. And what I found was that, you have everyone's mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit. They're intricately connected, the Holy Trinity, if you will. Right. And a lot of times people will only work on one or two of those. Okay. And they'll completely ignore a third. 9 times out of 10, they work on their mind. They ignore their body. They do whatever they want. They don't really have any spiritual side, or they think they do, and they don't really tap into it. And those are like anchors that are they're trying to go forward in life, but these anchors are pulling them back, and it's slowing down any kind of momentum or building of momentum. And so what I try to do is show them that if they can change one thing in any of those areas, and I start with physical because it's the easiest to change. There's no secret to change your body. Eat less, move more, drink more water, don't drink alcohol. Like, it's real simple. You know, like any way you do it. So if I can change a little bit of their body and change that belief, that they turn from saying, oh, it's bad genetics, or I've got a slow metabolism, or I'm just big boned, or whatever excuse or limiting belief that they have. If I can shatter that really quickly, I can change the way in which the lens in which they view themselves, and then use that to kind of continue and drive momentum, to continue to push, get their mental state up higher. And when you push and drive with your physical and your mental state, it creates this confidence, this belief in yourself, and it instills faith, which is just a belief in yourself. And that faith helps you to go down a more spiritual path, that you're meant for more in life. Like, what's my purpose here? And that's ultimately what the spiritual side is like the search for meaning, right?
Where do you live, man?
Dallas, Texas. Outside.
We got to hang out more. We got to hang out more, Greg. This is just, you're telling me so many things that the people that have listened to this podcast for a long time have heard me talk about. And I've never, it may be that I had this idea and then I noticed you just pull it out, but I've never heard anybody come this close to something that I think is just really true. And that is, you don't invest in yourself unless you believe you're worth investment. And so when you talk about, I forget the way you framed it, but when you talk about belief in yourself and faith in yourself, the idea that you can put something in that will come back greater than what you put in. I think that's a very strong, and not woo-woo way to look at behavioral change. And I think that's, obviously, since I think it's something like I agree with it. I love it. And so why then choose to do this? What was the driver behind you deciding that you wanted to take on what I can tell our listeners, if they don't already know, and a lot of them do, because a lot of them are from our world too. I'll tell the listeners, if they don't already know, this is a hell of a lot harder than selling insurance. It's a hell of a lot harder than, becoming a contractor. Why choose such a difficult endeavor like behavioral change for these two, finance and fitness, these two very, difficult places?
It kind of fell upon me. And so I'm going to try to be as not as long-winded as possible. I'm a long-winded guy. I like to talk, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep it as succinct as possible. But what I found is that a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. And it's just because you got to take action. You just got to do stuff. And so that's what I started. I started doing things because I knew I was in a bad spot. And so I started to say, I need to make a change. It's easier to remove things out of your life that don't serve you. We all know that, right? If you go to a bar and you are out drinking with friends, and afterwards you're like, I shouldn't have drank. I shouldn't have stayed out too late. I shouldn't have drank. I wake up the next day hungover. I'm kind of groggy. And you think about it afterwards and you're like, man, I really shouldn't have done that. Then remove that from your life, right? And it's easier to find out who you are by the process of elimination, because what will be left is who you are, what you're passionate about. So I started getting rid of negative shit out of my life, right? And I found a passion for something. Now, I had the military. It was high military. I ended up getting a divorce. I was married, I have 4 kids. And I ended up getting a divorce. And she cheated on me when I was on a deployment. And I found out about it after I got back, years later. And I cheated on her because I was upset. I want to pay her back, right? Told her about it. We tried to work through it. We ended up getting divorced anyways. I had 2 years, and then that was like 2 years before I got out of the military. And it changed my entire military career because everything was different at that point. I was living by myself. The kids were away, and my passion for service had kind of went away because I was missing time with my kids. So I ended up getting out, and I struck my hand at doing financial services, which was insurance. I kind of fell into that on accident too. So I had initial success, but like most entrepreneurs, I very quickly came down to earth, crashing, face smashes against the asphalt, and I just dragged along the asphalt by my face
Mm.
until I realized like I'm not doing the right things. Like I'm looking around seeing all the success, but I'm like, how are they doing it? I'm not doing it. And it's because I was trying to recreate the wheel and do it my way.
Mhm.
And so I had one of those conversations that you have with sometimes in life where they tell you what you need to hear, but not what you want to hear.
Mhm.
And I talked to this top producer and I was like, dude, how are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, let me ask some questions. And he went through a list of questions to kind of dig into, hey, this is where you're at, right? This is where you want to be. And he's like, dude, I know what your problem is. I was like, what's up? He looked me dead in my eyes. He's like, dude, you think you're special and you're not. And he's like, I'm not special either. The reason I'm having success is because I know I'm not special and I follow the system.
Mm.
You need to follow the system. And here's the system. Boom, 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 boom. Now, at the time, I had a lot of ego, right? I just got out of the military like a year previous. And I'm like, this motherfucker thinks I'm not special. Like I've led soldiers in combat, son. Who are you?
Yeah.
But I thought back to it and I was like, he's right. Like he's right. And so I changed everything and I started doing things by the system. For numbers sake, that was the end of 2018. That was the Saturday before Thanksgiving 2018 in November.
Mm.
So I went home and I started immediately. And I just started doing things and I started catching momentum. And by 2019 rolls in, I'm sprinting and I'm doing the things. In 2018, the entire year in insurance, I sold about $75,000 worth of insurance. And I deposited about 60,000 ish. In 2019, I sold $425,000 of insurance and I deposited 360,000. Massive difference. I was the same person. I just stopped trying to recreate the wheel.
Mm.
And so insurance agents across the country were reaching out to me because they saw the difference. They saw the change. And they were like, dude, what are you doing? And so I started helping them, but I'm a little bit different. I'm like you, Jason. I like to break things down monkey style.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody can get this, right? Like I'm very military, like let's break this down Barney style. Like I'm making it as simple as possible. So I did the same thing. I asked him questions and I would be like, hey, you're doing this and this, and it's probably producing this result. Am I right? Yep. Okay. So I want you to tweak this and put this here and this here. And this is why. And this is what you should see. Go apply that. And then we'll work from there. Like one thing at a time. Let's change one thing at a time. And they would come back like, oh man, that worked. It's this, that, the other. And so then they would just be amazed. Like, no one's ever coached me like this. It's like, it kind of makes sense to me. Like that's how we're taught in the military. I've been coaching soldiers for a decade, right? And I just started helping these agents, and I got a passion for it. Now, I started realizing, well, at this time you would think, but like from the outside looking in, like, oh man, he's crushing insurance, he's selling all this money, all these insurance policies, he's making this money, he's helping his agents. Dude, I was depressed. I was living a lie.
Mm.
I was put on the face, but I was dying inside. And I was suffering with PTSD and depression. And I had a lot of dependency issues. When I was growing up, for those of you watching this, I'm a very physically fit person. I've obviously seen the inside of a gym. However, I was not always this way. I'm 6'7". I was 6'7" and 100.
The fuck out of here! You're 6'7".
6'7", bro.
You're a monster.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
dude! I'm a.
You fight well?
Bro. Yeah, I didn't modern armor combatives.
I can't hang out with you. Go ahead.
So,
tell your story, Giant.
Yeah. Look at Jelly Giant.
Yeah.
So I was 6'7" and 170 pounds soaking wet.
Wow.
I was scrawny. And for those of you that are skinny, what I'm talking about. That like it's just as bad for me. It felt just as bad as like being overweight. Mm-hmm. Like when people, especially being 6'7", anywhere I walk, people see me. People look at me, and strangers, every day I go out in public, strangers come up and have to comment about how tall I am, how big I am, or how scrawny I was. Yeah. Right? Like, man, you're a stick, man. That's like me walking up to somebody saying, man, you're a fat ass.
Sure.
It's no different. Yeah. Like I created these body image issues. I had a lot of issues from it. So I grew up thinking like I didn't have any self-worth. I wasn't confident. I was a big nerd. I watched anime. I did art. Like I wanted to be an artist, And And I connected with a girl from high school. We got married, and I was with her all my adult life, and now I'm single. And I hadn't dealt with those issues. I hadn't dealt with those, and they started creeping up real quick. And I didn't like being alone. I had dependency issues. So I started jumping into relationship after relationship after relationship, back to back to back, without being single. And I would be single literally, I'm not even kidding, 24 to 96 hours max, max before I was in a relationship. And that was like, I'd be in a relationship for like 6 months to a year to even a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we got divorced in 2015. And this went on for 5 years, bro. And during this time frame, I got into this really toxic relationship. And for my PTSD, I'm so used to being in stressful situations, in stressful environments, that my stress never goes away. I'm always stressed. Like I wake up and I'm like a
Fight or
78%.
Yeah.
It's a constant. The good thing about that is that most stuff doesn't stress me out because I'm just like, meh, whatever, not that big of a deal. The bad thing about that is that I don't have a lot of room before I'm at full capacity. And it's like my brain reboots, like I'm done. And when I hit that point, I become depressed. I'm a very gregarious person. I love to talk to people. I like to be around people, you know. I'm as extroverted as I come. If I could talk to people in the bathroom next to the stall, I'd do it. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
cool with me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the opposite. I like I get away from people. I'm like stuck in my bed and these thoughts start coming in and I don't want to be here. And I start to get suicidal. And I had this girlfriend that she pushed those buttons, man. She just pushed those buttons. And just one day, her and I got into a stupid fight, 10 a.m. She's like, I'm leaving you, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, and it was like those, and I didn't want to be with her either. Like, I did not want to be with her. I felt trapped. I didn't want to be with her. But because she tells me she's leaving, now I get those feelings of like, I'm going to be alone and I'm getting sad and I'm spiraling. And what do? I turn and start drinking Jack. I open up a handle of Jack at 10 a.m. and I start drinking, bro. And I drank from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I drank a half a handle. And during that time, I'm spiraling. I'm calling friends. I'm, talking through this. And then it hits me. I'm like, I got a fucking insurance appointment I gotta go do. 6. So I stumble my ass upstairs and I'm like, start getting ready. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to an appointment. She's like, you're drunk. I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I'll be all right. She's like, no, I'll take you. And I'm like, no, you don't love me. You don't love me. You're leaving. No. And she comes over to try to console me and try to talk to me. And I'm like, no. And now I'm a talker. I love to like talk. I don't mind talking about my feelings because my mom's a psychologist. And so I'm pretty open, right? I'm like, we're going to handle this right now. So I start to explain to her, this is what you're doing to me. This is how I feel. And I'm trying to explain to her the thoughts that are going through my head and how I'm spiraling and how I'm having suicidal thoughts. And as I'm telling her this, she just face deadpan. So she's all like, hey, let me help you to like, and she's listening. And she finally, like, I stopped for a second. And she's like, well, why don't you go fucking slit your wrist then?
Jesus Christ.
No shit, bro. And that for me was the moment. That was like, that's the sign. That's the sign.
It was the final sign. There were probably some ones before that.
I'm not meant to be here.
Yeah.
And so I stopped talking to her and I just walked over to my closet. I had a pistol in a locked case. I grabbed the case out and I put it on the bed. I started grabbing my keys and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Just ignore her and I pull my keys out and I'm jingling the keys and I'm unlocking the case, open it up. And she's like, I'm calling the cops. I open up the case, grab out the pistol, and I'm like clearing it. She calls 911, sprints out the room. Load the pistol. And I stop for a second and I'm like, nah, she's going to watch this shit. She wants me to fucking kill myself. She's going to watch this. So I go to she had a daughter. Daughter was staying with us. Naturally, I mean, she was living with me. So she went to the playroom with the daughter and I could hear the 911 operator on speakerphone. She was talking. She was like hysterical. So I go open the door, it's locked and I can't open it. So I just put my hand on the door and I just push it real hard and it slams open. I put the gun to my head and I'm like, you want to fucking see this? It's just fucking craziness, pandemonium. She's screaming. Her daughter starts screaming. The 911 operator is like, cops are on the way. It's fucking insane. And I had this moment where I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? I realized that like her daughter was screaming. I think it was like that her daughter screaming that like snapped me out of it.
Mm.
I was like, they're scared that I'm going to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. I want to fucking kill myself.
Mhm.
Right. So I stopped, I closed the door and I walked downstairs and I was like, I'm just gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna do this peacefully outside. And I went and sat outside and I called a buddy of mine who was in the military at the time. Him and I served in Afghanistan. And I told him what was happening. And I was like, dude, I'm fucking out, bro. Just want to tell you I love you. And he was like, dude, stop what you're doing. Have you done anything yet? No. I was like, the cops are on their way, man. It's over. He's like, have you done anything? I was like, well, no. He's like, have you fired the weapon? No. Have you hit her? Or have you abused anybody? No. He's like, dude, nothing's over. Go fucking. And as he's talking, cop car, cop car, cop car, sirens. Like 10 cop cars arrive in my house on my little street. They come outside with loudspeakers. And they're like, Gregory Birch, come out with your hands up. Like fucking SWAT style, bro. And I'm sitting in the backyard, the opposite end of the house to where they're at. And I was like, dude, that's them. He was like, dude, go inside, put the weapon down, go outside and talk to them. You haven't done anything. So I went inside, I let him go, and I started putting the weapon down. And they called me on my cell phone. So I answered and I was like, hello. And he was like, hey, are you in the house? And I was like, yes. He said, do you have the gun? I said, yes. He said, I want you to unload it, put it on the couch. And I said, okay, he did. He said, I want you to open the door and come outside and have a talk with us. So I did, and I opened the door, and bro, the second I stepped outside, like took a step outside, like this wave of emotion crashed over me, and I just started bawling, like stupid cry, tears. I couldn't see, snot bubbles are coming out, like I'm just breaking down. And I go and stand in front of this cop, and he pulls me, and he's like this to me, like in my face, and he's like, "Hey, are you all right?" I don't know, man. He looks over, my door's open to my house. And above the TV, I had my guide on, my command guide on from when I was in command, sitting over the TV. It's actually right above, it's outside of the camera view. And he sees it and he says, did you serve? I was like, yeah. Did you serve overseas? Yeah. Are you seeing the VA, bro? No. He's like, you took some shit back with you. You need help, bro. You need to go see treatment. And he showed me a lot of kindness. And they took me to an inpatient facility in Dallas at the time. And I sat inside a waiting room for 48 hours waiting to get in processed because I was low priority. And during that time frame, I called my parents and they knew, and I called my mom, called my sister. My sister drove from Clarksville to Dallas and they released me to her instead of checking me in. She took me to the VA. But also during this time frame, my girlfriend, she's actually my fiance at the time. My fiance called my ex-wife. My ex-wife calls, finds out which clinic I'm at, which inpatient facility, calls, gets to the waiting room. And I'm like, I've been there for 6 hours. Not even at all. And they're like, Gregory Birch, you got a call. And I go over and take the call with my ex-wife. And she's like, hey, I heard what happened. You okay? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. She's like, well, I just wanted to call and tell you that I'm taking custody. I just put in an emergency order. You're not getting the kids this summer. They're supposed to be there in 2 weeks. And I'm using this to take off full custody from you. I was like, wow, way to kick me while I'm down. Right. And that was my rock bottom, bro. That was my fucking rock bottom. And I
So
realized at that point I had to change.
that's a good question. So if you're listening to this, and as I'm listening to this, I knew some of that was coming, but that's just an unbelievable story. When this is a chapter of your book, when this becomes a chapter of your book, whether you choose it to or not, from what you're describing, and I've been on rails before in situations where it's like, this is what we're heading towards. And, sometimes you're able to divert that and sometimes you're not. In this case, from what you're describing, those rails were heading right off of a cliff. How long from that moment until we're talking to the person that I'm talking to right now?
Oh, dude, a long time.
Yeah. What was that journey
Yeah.
like?
So I started doing, I went to VA right away and I started doing counseling. And the first thing I did was I started recognizing my signals and my signs.
Mm,
Like what what got me anxious. And there were certain things that got me anxious that would like raise my anxiety level. And there's certain things that like didn't stress me out at all. And I started recognizing those signs way early on. And I got on medication and all these different things to kind of numb that stuff. And I just realized like if I feel anxious at all, I'm dipping, I'm out. Like just for my own health. Like I just be like, nope, not for me. I gotta go I gotta go take a few moments. I'm out. And I started doing that. And so that was pretty healthy for me. And but what I didn't change, I had so much anger, man. I was so fucking angry at my ex-wife. I was so fucking angry at my fiance at the time, who we ended up separating. And I still had dependency issues. And I still was jumping from relationship to relationship. And it took until 2020, the end of 2020, I had a relationship with this woman that literally could have like went down in flames. Now I didn't have any episode like that, but she did.
mm,
And it was bad. Like I could write a book on that shit.
mhm,
And I got done with that relationship. Like there was a specific moment happened where I stopped and I was like right when we broke up, and I was like, how do I keep getting in these fucking situations? And I was like, I think I'm the problem. And I had this moment of self-realization. I was like, I'm the fucking problem here.
mhm,
And so in 2021, I was like, I'm not dating anybody. I'm not going to date at all. And it was scary. It was scary to be alone and like be lost in my thoughts, be in my house, just me, no kids, because kids are, I still don't have custody this time. And I had to do supervised visits at their location. And she remarried somebody in the military that was PCSing all the time. Right. And so I had to go do supervised visits. And I was like, this is, I got to work on this. Right. And so I started my journey of how am I going to work on this? And it came down to discipline. It came down to like when you do things in a disciplined way, as much as people think like discipline restricts you, it actually gives you freedom. And and I was always fascinated with the military and how they could take a group of people from across the nation, from different ages, races, religions, socioeconomic backgrounds, bring them to one location, break them down to base, and turn them into fucking killers. And it's like, well, how are they doing that? They control the environment. They make them get up early. They make them be clean and cleanliness. They control their diet. They make them drink water. They make them exercise. They make them read. They make them learn. And it's non-negotiable. It's every fucking day. So I said, you know what? I've been doing this for a long time. I lost all the discipline that I had learned in the military. I'm going to put some discipline back into my life. And so I started reading daily. I hadn't read in years. I started watching my diet. I took alcohol out of my diet. I started working out every single day. And when I did these, and it was like, irregardless of how I felt, if whether or not I wanted to or not, I still did it. If I woke up one day and I was sore and I was like, I really don't want to go on a run today, I committed to doing it. I'm fucking doing it. Oh man, I got busy today and I didn't do my reading early on. And now it's nighttime. It's 10 o'clock and I'm just now getting done with work. I'm tired. You know what? I'll read more tomorrow. Fuck no, I'm not reading tomorrow. I'm reading today because I said I was going to read today. That's my fault. I'm staying up late and I'm going to do it the right way. Because I took notes when I read. Like every single time I read, I'm taking notes. I'm writing down information that I'm taking away. Right. I'm not going to half-ass it. And those were like putting small daily deposits into my discipline, which was growing and growing and growing. And then when I was growing my discipline over time, that voice in your head that tells you, sleep in, hit the snooze. You can take a day off. You deserve that cheat meal. You can do it tomorrow. That voice got like lower and lower and lower and lower. It's like a whisper.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice is like, you're a fucking badass, Greg. When you say you're going to do something, you're going to fucking do it. Like, don't listen to that bitch ass voice. That one got louder. It got
Mm-hmm.
really loud. And I had this like moment where I was like, I've been saying, I've not been like living life, right? Like there's so many experiences out there. And I watched the movie Yes Man during this time frame. And so, I love that movie, but it's like, it was amazing how just by him saying yes to opportunities changed his life, had this great experience, this, that, the other. And I was watching, I was like, man, I'm going to start saying yes to everything. And so I had a coach at the time who was a mentor of mine. And I told him about this epiphany I had. I'm going to say yes to everything. He was like, all right, let's start right now. You need to do a hobby to like on the side to like fulfill your mind. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, I kind of want to do BJJ or I want to do dancing. Like I wanted to learn ballroom dancing. I like to dance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, which one do you want to do more? I was like, I'm gonna do BJJ. All right, go do it. And I was like, yes. And I went and like subscribed to this BJJ place. It was within town. I paid for the year subscription. It was like, boom, did it, paid.
Yeah.
He was like, shit, you're just, I was like, dude, I'm decisive, bro. I'm on it. Let's go. And he's like, all right, you know what you should do? You should start going back to church. All right, yes. So I started going back to church. Started going back to church a couple weeks. He's like, you know what you should do? You should start tithing. Yes. Started tithing. And all these things started coming my way. All these blessings in life started coming my way. And so I was in church one day. And every day in church, we have the sacrament, and I would pray and I would repent for everything that I'd done the past week. Be like, I did this and did that, and I should have done this better. And sorry, Lord, I'll do better. I'm always trying to do better, you know? And this one day, I was like 6 weeks into going to church. I'm repenting, and this voice in my head, it's like my voice, but it was talking to me. And I was doing my repenting, and I got done, and it was like, you're not done. You're not done repenting. You got a lot more to repent for. And I thought for a second, and I started to work backwards. And I worked backwards to that previous relationship that went down in flames and the crazy shit she did. And I released it. I started acknowledging the things that I did, the things that I had done that had caused, that had been a precursor or maybe a catalyst. So I can't control her actions, but I can't control mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, man, it felt good. I felt good. Release it. You're not done yet. And it was just like, I went back every adult relationship I had all the way back to college, man.
Mm.
I was like, I got in tears. And it was like looking in the mirror and just being, and I realized that moment, I was like, I've been a piece of shit. And the reason why I'm got this anxiety and this depression, and the reason why I'm unhappy and I feel like I'm living a lie when everyone else thinks I'm like crushing it and I'm not happy is because my actions have not been in line with the person I am inside. And so I released it all. I took accountability. And dude, it was the most cathartic experience I've ever had in my life. And I walked out 10 pounds lighter, bro. And it was that moment on, I was like, it started with physical fitness. It started with like getting myself mentally focused on my regimen and doing physical fitness, being consistent. And it was like the gateway into personal development. And I had this completely spiritual experience. And that's when it kind of clicked and people started realizing, people started seeing a difference because I documented my journey on Instagram and on Facebook because I was like, I want to keep myself accountable. So I'm going to post every day about it. And people were like, dude, you're changing. Like some people just reach out to me like, you just look happier.
Mm-hmm.
You look more positive. And people started reaching out and saying, what are you doing? I was like, well, let me help. I want to help you on your journey because this is transformation. This is like, I feel like a superhuman, like unfucking believable, right? I'm like, this is insane how I feel. Everyone should feel this way, and everyone can, right? And so I started helping people, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And through that, I just got a passion for it. I started to enjoy it. Like I do it all the time. I'll take coaching calls any time of the day. It's not work to me. I love doing it. And so, and it hit me one day. I was like, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. Like maybe I'm meant to really help serve people at a greater capacity, to overcome their demons, to overcome their anxiety and depression, to overcome their overconsumption, right? Of whether that consumption is alcohol and food like mine was. I mean, I was over consuming media, Netflix, Hulu Plus, just watching TV all the time, wasting my life away, over scrolling on screen sucking on Instagram, comparing myself to other people. You know, we all have demons and vices that we have in our life that we're weak for. And if we allow those to take hold, they can very quickly make you spiral with the way that they're designed, with the dopamine hits that you get, the fake dopamine, that it just ruins your life. And so I was like, I can help people to overcome that. And that's how I started Delta Fit. So long story short.
What's the difference between repentance and guilt and self-flagellation?
Ooh. So I feel like when you do something negative or you do something that you know is bad, but you haven't taken accountability for it, you have guilt. Guilt is going to be there. Like you're going to have the feeling of guilt. And we try to mask that by being like, well, they did this. And like, well, I was justified in doing it because this, that, the other. I was okay with flipping that guy off and cutting him off because he cut me off first. Right. And so the guilt is the initial feeling. That's like the initial precursor letting you know you did something wrong. You need to take accountability for it. And repentance is more of an accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That's you accepting responsibility.
Ownership.
Being like, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
It was not right. I want to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that acknowledgement is where the real change happens. That's the self-realization piece. Like I did a reel the other day. In every story, there's 4 archetypes. You have the victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide. The victim is the person that has something wrong done to them, and they're just like, oh, poor me. Nothing ever goes right. And it's always, I can't do that because I don't have time. I can't work out because I got bad genetics. I can't do this. Like, it's just complain, complain, complain. Then you have the villain and the hero. And the villain and the hero are both the same person. They both had something wrong happen to them, some tragedy, some terrible situation or circumstance. But what they do from that point is what defines them. The villain says, I was wronged. I'm taking it out on the world. I'm paying them back because this isn't right. The hero says, I was wronged. I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent this from this happening to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The guide is the person that's been the hero multiple times. And it can find the hero in people and can lead them on their journey to help them along the way to fulfill their meaningful mission. Mm-hmm. And when I realized this is that in my life, I've been all 4 of those. I've been a victim. I've been a villain. And it wasn't until I had the self-realization that I was being the villain, that I was being the victim, that I could transition to becoming a hero. That I could transition into positivity and trying to help others to prevent it from happening to them. And then become a guide where I can help other heroes do the same thing. And coach and mentor and teach and train.
Yeah, you talk about I've heard like several kind of forks in the road, and at every one you and I identify with this, of course, as well. At every one of those forks in the road, there's this meta-analysis, right? There's like the passenger in the car, where your ego is driving the car, we're on these rails or whatever, however metaphor you want to describe it. And there is a part of you that you're describing, that I'm hearing at least, that is looking at you making decisions. It's that meta-analysis part. How do you how do you help other people to find that? Because so often I feel like people can't exist in that ability to put down, whether it's putting down their ego or just looking and understanding that it exists, and then saying, not just I'm going to do this, but how am I doing this decision? How am I going through this thing? Um, have you have you ever been able to give that to anybody, or do you feel like you earned it? Do you feel like it was always there and you ignored it? Speak to that a little bit, because this is something I find to be very fascinating.
So I think I found it by happenstance, just kind of by sheer will of
Mm,
like driving forward and hitting that rock bottom, which forced me to kind of that lever in my mind to pull that lever, being like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right. It was like I'd gotten so bad that I had to change. Right. And so just by sheer will of like, I'm going to do this no matter what. And I'm a pretty like determined person. Like
mhm,
I'm friggin' like, I don't like to fail. Right. And when I make a decision, it's happening. And so just through the process of what I was going through and not quitting, it happened. But I learned a lot of techniques along the way. And the technique that I do with like my coaching clients is being more mindful of the present and
mhm,
understanding that the past doesn't exist anymore. It's not in existence. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. Too often, most of us, the reason why we are where we are is because, and if you're riddled with anxiety and you're being ruled by your vices and your demons and you're not where you want to be, I can guarantee you that you're living in the past or you're looking to a potential future and it's based off the past. And you're spending so much time doing that instead of being present. And so then people will be like, well, I can't not think about it. I can't control my thoughts. So then I do a little exercise with them to show them you can control your thoughts. And the exercise is simple and anybody can do it. And it's fucking powerful. It works with everybody. And all you simply do is when you have those thoughts, which it's going to happen, it creeps in. We're normal. All of us are egotistical. There's nothing bad with that, right? I have an egotistical mind too, but I can recognize it quick. Right? I'm like, nope, I'm being egotistical. Um, and when those thoughts start to come in, what I do is I put myself in my mind and I have myself watch these thoughts as if they're a third party, as if it's like another person in my mind that's saying this, right? And I'm just watching it. And I'm not assessing it. I'm just watching without putting any positivity or negativity towards it. I'll be like, oh, poor me. I don't want to have these thoughts. Nothing. Just watching it like, oh, that's interesting. And then I say to myself, and what happens is as you watch it, it kind of dies down and it goes away. And then I think to myself, I wonder what my next thought will be. And then I watch and I wait. Crickets. It works every time. And every time I do it with my clients, I'm like, what are you thinking? They're like, nothing. So then you're controlling your thoughts. So then you can't control your thoughts. And it's like this light bulbs moment. They're like, I can. You can. You can control your thoughts. This is like your brain, your mind is a muscle, right? And being able to control it is like going to the gym. You've never been to the gym in your fucking life. And you're trying to lift the same weight that I lift. And because you can't, you're like, I can't do it. You got to start with those 5 pounders over there, bro. And you got to do the work.
mm,
But now you know you can do the work. The good thing is that the more work you do, there's no exhaustion, there's no fatigue. You can do work multiple times a day and you can have massive growth, right? And so doing mindfulness techniques like that, doing meditation, they really help for you to center yourself. And in that moment, when you say, what's my next thought going to be? The past disappears and the future goes away. And now you're in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you're more creative because you're not like encumbered by emotion, by this negative emotion of something that happened in the past or this fear or dread of a potentially bad future or even an overly positive feeling about a future that may not even come. Who knows? So you can actually look at the present moment, what's going on without assigning a positive or negative emotion. And then you can say, well, do I like or dislike this? Well, I don't like it. Okay, well, what am I going to do about it? And now you're going to be a lot more creative with solutions to get where you want to go.
mm.
So that's the technique that I use that seems to be very successful with my clients.
Have you ever done a float tank?
I have not done a float tank.
I'm not sure if you could haul your big ass into one, but if you could, man, I would highly recommend it. And this is up to you if we keep it in or not. But what's your stance on psychedelics?
So I have done shrooms one time, and they're a little wild.
Yeah.
And I've always heard about ayahuasca. I kind of want to try it just to see. I've heard it's like just a transcendent experience. Like you like go really deep within your mind and like really find some shit out.
Well, I don't have answers for you. I think it's something you got to go through yourself. But a lot of what you're talking about, I most deeply resonate with on a personal level from a psychedelic practice. The ability to look at myself objectively and without judgment, the ability to examine things from the past without dwelling in them, the ability to, just make clear and sort of weightless decisions about the path that I want my future to go on without it being, again, without it having heavy weight and stakes to it. So if you ever find yourself in Indiana, look me up and we'll talk more. But yeah, that's fascinating, man. I think I'm very much interested, and I liked what you were saying. I just don't think it has necessarily given me a definitive answer, which is this thing where we are in a bad situation or doing bad things or whatever, just doing things that we wouldn't want to be doing or being in places we wouldn't want to be. So whether you're in an environment that you were raised in that does not provide you with opportunity, or you find yourself, in trouble with the law, or, in a string of bad relationships, or overweight and out of shape and having no energy day to day and suffering from any number of physical and mental ailments, the dividing line in every one of those scenarios is the person who accepts that as their fate versus the person who decides to pick up the mantle and make a change. And I think that if I had to boil down my life's work to anything very, very fundamental, it would be sort of trying to find out how to give that to somebody, because I think you and I, at least from listening to you talk and having had a few conversations, I think you and I have that thing where you can go like, hey, I see where this is going, and if it's bad enough, I'm going to have to abort and we're going to have to change the path. But I've met so many people, and I just have to take it at face value when I talk to somebody. I've learned over my life to just believe people when they tell me things, and I have no reason not to. And so when somebody tells, I don't feel like I have a choice, or when somebody says, it's not up to me, I'm not saying that that's true, but empathy isn't believing the other person. It's believing that they believe themselves. And so, I'm not even going to kick it back to you unless you have the answer for that, because I think that's a lifelong thing that I'm trying to figure out and that many people have for many years, especially when, I think it's one thing to impose behavioral change on people through the military, through the army, through religion, through parenting, whatever. It's a wholly different thing to get someone, to entice someone and persuade someone to take a free will action towards a better positive change. And I think that's what you're doing in the different things that you're doing right now. And I admire you for that.
I appreciate that. I think that's ultimately that's the conundrum. That's like
Dude.
that's the Pandora's box of it all. Like if I had a magic wand and I could say the right thing that got people to get on that path and it stay on the path, man, I'd wave that magic wand all day long. I would just be like, you're healed, right? It sometimes people have to have enough pain to get out of that to force them to just like, hey, it's less painful to change than it is to stay here, right? Sometimes you can manufacture that pain by telling them stories, or maybe somebody listening to this is like, dude, I'm just where Greg was, before he got when he got divorced, before he went down that path, and I feel it going. I need a change now, and they can exit the highway at this point.
Yeah,
right?
those stories help me so much. To your point, I agree. I think that if you take away, even if you could wave that wand and take away somebody's struggle or their pain or correct their behavior, you rob them of the thing that they would learn by experiencing it. And so, to your point, I think it's so beautiful to to use stories, because I can tell you, and I've spoken about it on the podcast, and I may have spoken about it on yours, where when I've struggled, I remember the dozens and dozens of stories of, in my case, more recently, of entrepreneurs who had their biggest struggle and then found these great successes. And so it's those stories that tell me through this very human experience that, like, this is how this story looks. The entrepreneur bashes his face on the ground, or however you said it, or whatever it is. Well, Greg, we're getting towards the end here, so I want to give you an opportunity to answer the two questions that I ask every single entrepreneur that comes on the podcast. It's going to be a little change of pace, but I can't break tradition now.
Okay.
Are you ready for those two questions, my friend?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number one. If you had access to unlimited financial capital, how would you profitably grow your current businesses?
Oh man. Okay, so that's great. For Delta Financial, I would create, if I had unlimited financial capital, I would create a lead source, like the most intentional lead source possible. I have ideas of how to do it, but it would take a lot of financial capital and then a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But with more financial capital, it would reduce the time. That would be based off of clients in SEO coming to a website and clients signing up on the website, and then basically creating a lead source or a form from there to go directly this automatically to an agent ready to sell. They jump on, finalize an application, done. It can be done. I know it's possible. It just that it takes time.
Yeah.
With Delta Fit, man, I mean, my coaching business is still new. It's still pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would take the time to I'd put the resources into me so that I would have more skills to help more people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Those are great answers. The second question, if you had to give it all up and start a business based on something that you've never done before, what do you think that might be?
Not to be cliche, but I wanted to own a gym. That was the first thing when I first started lifting. I wanted to own a gym.
Yeah,
I wanted to call it Jacked and Tanned, and I wanted to I wanted to have a tanning salon inside.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I love it. That's actually a
I,
pretty cool concept. Well, let me be the first on this call to congratulate you for having not taken that career path and chosen what is going to be a far easier path, in my opinion. Well, Greg, listen, your story is incredibly powerful. I am honored that you shared it with me and with my audience today. I also would like to take this opportunity to tell you how just blown away I am at the man telling me that story. Doesn't even seem like the man that it's describing. And so, particularly by height, so it's just genuinely am in awe of your transformation and cannot wait to see what you continue to build. These folks listening are going to be very interested in following up with you. So where can they find you, and what's the best way to do that?
Instagram. I constantly post content and reels and try to help people. My Instagram is at Gregory A Birch _. And if you want to learn more about my coaching, I have a website that explains everything. It's deltafitlife.com. Just deltafitlife.com.
And obviously those links will be in the show notes below. Greg Birch, you're a bad motherfucker. Thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome back anytime.
I appreciate it, Jason. You're a bad motherfucker, and I appreciate you having me, bro.
Thanks, man.